If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed, and a child shall lead them to buy our merch.
Game Over is the name of the song. The name of the band is Evanescence. Standing right by that guy, the guitarist. Guy has a mask. That's pretty good. Concert. I recognize that guitarist. We were standing when we were at the Corn Show. We were standing right behind the guitar because that guy, the guy with the blonde hair, he stands on the left side of the stage, and that's where we were. So he was over there, and then Amy was obviously right there in the middle, and I just took a bunch of pictures. It was crazy. That guy ended up giving me he gave me a couple pics, Bitter Truth.
You mean you watched me take pictures, babe?
Oh, yeah, it's true.
You run interference every time I got in those people's way. You're like, back out.
Yeah. Well, you're tripping. We're on the stage.
I've got the camera out there. I'm not supposed to have it out. I'm stealing pictures for Amy Lee.
We're literally on the stage with the band.
Yeah.
Okay, we're literally seeing out into the crowd.
But
and Sori's like, excuse me, Mr. Guitarist for Legendary Band. Excuse me, I gotta get this shot for my friend.
That's what happened. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a good angle. Ooh, that one would be even better. And so I was so busy with the angles on Amy that I was going around, and then all of a sudden Vin was like, sorry, I can't hear anything, it's so loud. And he's grabbing me out the way, and then I realized I was blocking the people from going to do whatever they had to do as part of the show. I was like, yo. Anyway, whoa. Wow. I love her music.
One of the things that caught me about this song was you could tell they're all kind of in their home studios or whatnot because it was a COVID concert.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, I'm not, it's obviously there's a big difference between playing in front of thousands of people versus playing,
Do you know where the remote thing went through that?
To a camera, huh?
Sorry, but that thing just went up real high, and I didn't know if you happened to see the remote.
No, I don't know where the remote is. Who cares?
Okay, go ahead.
What's the matter?
Well, it was just made for a bad picture, but oh well. Okay, sorry.
No, it's all good. But so they're all kind of in their little home studios or whatnot.
Yeah.
But she was putting out the most. I couldn't tell the difference between what she was putting out in the little studio session that she just did in this video versus what we saw live. It's the same way.
She takes it seriously. She takes her music seriously. And I mean, that was so obvious. I still am amazed by this, and I know we say it every time, but when we left the stage and we were hanging out with the band, she came by, she said a couple words to us, and then she went in the back to do cool down practices. I was like, yo, somebody that good has to do cool down practices? Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That just tells me I mean, does she have to? I mean, I don't know. I don't have a voice like her.
Yeah, I feel like she doesn't have to.
She just wants it at that peak excellence all the time. That's what it seems like to me. And that's amazing to have your...
Well, high performers are usually people who, have some sort of obsessive disorder. Mm. That it just so happens that the thing that they
funneled it in the right way.
The thing that they obsess about is something that's culturally, valuable. Mm-hmm. And you could tell, she's obsessed with the art form, and she's obsessed with being her best possible self and great at it, no matter who's there or who's not there. And on top of that, I just think she just loves to sing.
I think so too.
I was listening to Kirk Hammett. He was talking about the first time he had a guitar or whatever.
Yep.
And he was saying that, he'll do a show or whatever, and then he's back in his hotel by himself, and all he knows how to do is pick up his guitar and keep playing. You know, it's like you just did it for 3 hours, and that's your job. And then how do you cool down as Kirk Hammett after you've had to do all this, you know, whatever, as a rock star in Metallica? He's in his hotel room playing guitar.
That's crazy.
And that's just why he's one of the all-time greats. Like,
That's crazy.
you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just, that's why I said, like, I probably would enjoy playing drums more, but the guitar to me is something completely, you know, it's different. Like it's a spiritual thing. But
I was just gonna say that, literally.
yeah, but for Amy, obviously singing is the way that she lives. It's like life for her.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to see somebody who doesn't need to be you know, that diligent, especially in metal. Like, back in the day, like in the 80s or whatever, like, everybody could sing in metal. Like, you had these power metal guys singing these crazy notes. You had Halford. You had... She came up during the new metal era, like, nobody could sing in the new metal era or play.
Yeah, but she just...
But she is like...
Oh, my gosh. So I remember, and I'm sure I've shared this before, but I remember we weren't allowed to have music growing up. And then when I got my license, then it was basically like... You're on your own now. Whatever you want to do in the car is your business, you know?
Yeah.
And so my parents were kind of hands off. I thought they were going to like ask questions and like monitor everything, but they really didn't. So I started exploring different radio stations. And like, I remember hitting one, that's how I found Evanescence. But I was like, what is that band? Who is that voice? What in the world? And like, you just had to wait for it to come up again. And I didn't even know the name of the band. So even if they said, hey, bop, 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 bop is coming up next, I didn't know what they were. So it was just like literally waiting and just hoping her voice was going to come across that radio. And obviously on occasion it did. And then years went by where I went to, of course I picked a Bible college that no music there either, blah, blah, blah. So years and years go by more of no music, etc., etc.
No secular music.
Yeah, no secular. At that point, it was no secular music. Yeah. So, but then when we got back in the channel, that was it was hearing it on the channel was when I pieced together that was the voice from when I was 16. That it was Evanescence. It was Amy Lee Farrell's voice.
Wow, that's crazy.
So yeah, and it was probably from
Had enough.
Actually,
I've really had enough.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Had
this
enough
song,
of denial. Mm-hmm. I'm not all right, but I'm not gonna lie. I don't know that I ever was.
So I have to preface this by saying we come with the understanding that a human being consists of body, soul, and spirit. So our body is like what takes physical extensions into the world. Then you have your spirit, which is your connection to the spiritual realm, whether that's for good or for evil. It's the creepy feel that you get when you go past like some grave cemetery or whatever, or you find out somebody was murdered in this house and you're like, yo, the hairs in the back of my head were already up even before I knew that information. That's your spirit. It's also the part of you that connects with God. And then there's your soul, which kind of consists of our personality, and it's our decision maker. It gives us what we want, chocolate or vanilla more. Anyway, so we're coming from that understanding. So I feel like that understanding is super important when you break down this song. That's my take.
Okay, how so? How does that work for
Well,
you?
because it says, I've had enough. I've really had enough. I've had enough of denial. I'm not all right, and I'm not going to lie. I don't know that I ever was. All alone. I waited all alone. I played by the rules.
By your rules.
By your rules, yep. But then when it says, change me into something I believe in, something that I don't have to pretend, for me, I think that maybe it's a relationship song, and that she's, maybe it's a relationship where you become something else for somebody, which is never good or healthy for anybody. But I also think, like, when I heard this song, like, it completely made me think about...
Wait, what's not good for anybody?
When people change, I think that there are some changes that you make in a relationship because you're different and I'm different and we're trying to bring our two together. Uh-huh. But then there's, like, that person changed completely who they were. There's somebody else, but they did it for someone else. It's not because they wanted to make those changes for themselves. Like, they're almost unrecognizable as a person to the people who knew them before they were with that person. Like, that's for the negative, sometimes. Mm-hmm. But when I heard that part, I was just thinking about the body, soul, spirit part of it. And, like, if somebody just looked at Amy you would say, oh my gosh, she's successful, she's beautiful, she's straight, she's good. You know what I mean? Like, so her physical presentation might tell you that she's completely fine. But then there may be, like with this relationship, there was something going on in her soul that's making her feel like she's denying herself by not being true to her, who she is. She's pretending to be something else. And for me, like, and that's why I kind of brought this up, was the spiritual side of it, is that you cannot deny the spiritual side of yourself. So if you starve yourself and you refuse to feed your physical body, it will die. And the same thing is true about your spirit. Like, but it's almost like your spirit doesn't die. It just like gets worse off and worse off and worse off. And so, you know, when I heard this song, that's what it made me think of, was like when my spirit is not connected and is not like connected to like God's greater spirit, and I'm getting like from that, then from that situation, I feel like I'm denying who I am, because I feel like I can't even really be myself, because my spirit is so connected to spirituality.
That's interesting. You always hear it in the reverse. You always hear, religion was pushed on me, so I wasn't able to be myself.
Yeah.
What you're saying is you not having religion.
Right. I can't be myself.
That's-
Because I'm denying a third of who I am.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a very, very good point.
So in this song, it seems like it's not like necessarily like a denial of her spirit, but I don't know where she is spiritually. But if you're being something for somebody else, then you're denying a part of your soul, and perhaps a part of your body as well, if you're engaging in things physically that you don't want to do.
Amy Lee says, I'm totally opposite, 90% ego, 10% mind. Stop lying. She's not 90% ego. Ridiculous. Yeah, but that does create that kind of lonely feeling. I don't know what the background is here, but she says, I'm all alone. I've waited all alone. And she talks about holding it in to play by your rules. We don't know who your is yet, at least in the song. But that's one of the crazy things about being a parent, is that, you know, as an adult, you understand that there have to be rules. Like, I don't want my kid to use his free will if we're on a busy intersection. I want him to listen to exactly what I say and do exactly as I say. Right?
Right.
But then the question as a parent becomes like, yeah, but how many situations are like that? And I feel a lot of times, especially like religious parents, like everything gets dumped into that bucket of this has to be unquestioning obedience. It's like, well, wait a second. Not everything is consequential as a busy intersection.
Right.
Like, so can you make that dichotomy between this kid has to follow this because, like, you know, you have to eat breakfast, you have to brush your teeth. Like, there's certain things where it's like, no, you're not getting an option. You don't get a say, right? But then it's like, okay, but does that have to permeate everything? Because if you do that as a parent, you're going to create a kid who is law-based, rule-based, and completely isolated because you don't create an environment where they're able to express themselves, right? And so, like, I've tried to attack that in multiple ways. It's like, okay, you have to eat breakfast, but we can choose, we can compromise on what kind of breakfast, right? Like, you know, you have to brush your teeth. Maybe we can compromise on what kind of toothbrush you get. You see what I'm saying? So the kid still feels like he has a say. And that is not a simple balance in any way, shape, or form. And I'm not sure. I mean, it's something I think about a lot. I'm not sure if that's why I tell you all the time, because you're more of a strict, like, do as I say parent. And I'm more like the liberal, whatever. That's why I tell you, like, be who you are. Because that would give me more confidence to be as crazy as I am, because your rigidity sort of would balance that out. But
I don't want that at the end of the day. Like, I don't want to be the rigid parent and you're the one that's like, hey, let's fly to the moon. And I'm like, no, keep your feet on the ground. Everybody. Like, right. I don't want that. I'm glad that you'd like to be free flying to that degree, as would I, but I feel like I gotta put the law down on certain things. Because the question is, okay, yeah, you want to give them that personal autonomy where they can make those questions and they can make those decisions. And like you said, it's like, do you want eggs or do you want pancakes? Because but the one that I won't let move or compromise on is if I say, come over here, I don't care if it's something as silly as pick that sock up or it's because we're in a parking lot. When I say come over here, that needs to be done right now, because they're not going to be able to tell the difference between when they're in danger and when they're not. So in those situations, I don't leave.
It's a song about being sick of the facade, the disguises we wear for others to make them feel comfortable to fit in the boundaries of what's socially acceptable.
It makes you wonder, like, what would she do differently if she didn't fit into certain social norms?
Yeah, but we have a mini society in our household because we have so many kids.
Yeah.
It's something that, I don't want to say it torments me, but it is something that I always keep at the front, like, there's so many strong views in our household, and we come from an activist household and XYZ. It's like, it always makes me think, like, yeah, but is there room for a person with a differing opinion? And we got tested.
Yeah, we did.
About a year ago, I think, one of the kids kind of.
Yeah.
And, they came in and they said, hey, this is what I'm about, blah, 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 blah. And obviously I did not agree with where people were coming from at the time. But I said, we got you. We love you unconditionally, blah, blah, blah. And I think we got through it. Like,
yeah, I think so.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to get
I wouldn't say it was smooth, complete. It's not like everybody was like, yeah, everything's good. Like, people pushed back and...
But I was very, very... person went to me immediately, like, as soon as I got home. And, explained it to me. So I was like, okay, that means that I'm viewed as a safe person to be, like, completely, like, because this is, like, completely against what we stood for, especially our household. Like, you're going to know what we stand for. And it was like, okay, here's a test. You're going to love this person unconditionally. You're going to tell them that, they got to do X, Y, and Z to change for you to be part of this family, or can they be who they are? And it was fascinating because, like, I handled it a certain way, but some of the other kids were not as, quote, open-minded. And then I had the instinct to, like, shut them up. And I was like, wait a second, I don't want to create the same environment in the other direction. Right? Because, like, now it's like, dad's a crazy liberal. This person's, like, gone off the range. And now everybody's supposed to agree with it because dad thinks it's cool. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So you can fall off on being too conservative, whatever. Like, anytime you create there are social dynamics, and there is a reward punishment system, you're gonna get the danger of creating that kind of facade. So it's like, on the one hand, like, I was being completely progressive and accepting of and more than tolerant and accepting and loving of this person, but I also had to be loving and accepting of the other perspectives. So that they could also be true to themselves. And that's extremely difficult to balance out when you're trying to attend to the emotions of a person in a vulnerable situation who's now identifying as a member of a very vulnerable community versus other people who have their own convictions based on their spirituality, logic, whatever, political position, whatever. And to be able to honor both of those perspectives and let both of those people be themselves is extremely difficult to do. And I think when you start becoming a parent and you're a parent of multiple kids and they start hitting those teenage years, none of our kids went into teenage rebellion, in my opinion. But there is a greater sense of self when you become a teenager, and I think a lot of parents are characterizing that as rebellion. So just because the kid is coming into himself and forming their own thoughts, parents are characterizing that as rebellion.
That's true.
But, like, it's obviously that's just like the ecosystem in our house. But you see this in the country. Like, Anna Kasparian says, this is how I want to be labeled. And obviously it was bothering her. Right? And so she goes out and says that, and she gets her throat cut by people in her own community. Because everybody's just supposed to handle that particular topic one way. And so it's like, on the one hand, people will say, oh yeah, speak your mind, be true to yourself, blah, blah, blah. But then when a person is true to themselves, they get their head chopped off.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're not really... Nobody really believes that. Like, all these, especially now in the social media age, all these variegated groups, you know, there's an orthodoxy you have to follow, and if you deviate from it, you're like the worst person in the world, or you're one of them, or whatever. It's like what's happening to Anna right now. And obviously, Anna did it to other people, so it's one of those hens coming and roosting. But it's a really difficult thing to navigate, you know, because I think everybody universally understands that there needs to be certain kinds of social norms. And if you just wake up and you're like, yeah, man, like my identity is a sexual assaulter, it's like, great, don't express that though.
Right.
And if you do, we'll lock you up. And I think that's the right thing to do. I think most of us would say in the room that's the right thing to do. But at the same time, it's like, how do you keep all these perspectives and give people the latitude when it's not something as extreme as that, right? But then who determines what extreme is and who isn't? It's very complicated.
Yeah.
But if you're not aware of it, you're definitely going to create that environment. If you're not aware of it and you're not actively attacking it, you're definitely going to create an environment where people have to put up a facade in order to be accepted in groups. And I think that's like, religious people should be doubly cognizant of it. Mm-hmm. We should be doubly aware of it, that if you're in a religious context, you've created an environment where people get better access if they, you know, go along with your religion versus not, that there are serious consequences. So it's a common song, like, oh, you know, I'm an outsider, whatever. But at the same time, it's a deep song that has a lot of ramifications.
It's so crazy because you would think, like, you know, if you just, you know, threw a random emo teenager and Amy Lee in the same room and you said, this is what one of them feels like, nobody would pick Amy. They would pick the emo kid. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter who you are, how old you get, or how successful you are. Like, that's why I go back to the holistic experience, the body, soul, spirit, is that all three parts of yourself have to be in unison, and they all have to be headed in the direction of who you are as a person without denying certain parts of yourself, for us to feel the most fulfilled and the most happy. And I think that obviously that can't be done without a good spiritual direction. So I just think it's just crazy. I know that we've heard it over and over, but when you just hear of these artists that like get all the way to the top and then they're just like, they're lonely, or they're, you know, saying this is not it and all that, it's just like, wow, it's just wild.
Yeah, but she was really like putting out there. It's a 9.4 for me.
It's a 9.8 for me. I love her voice. It's just incredible. It's just incredible.
Shout out to the big homie Arjuna. Gang. Arjuna was the warrior. Krishna was like, yeah, I know you don't want to. I know you don't want to kill all the people, but you got to kill all the people, bro. Because they're all his family, basically. Shout out to Arjuna, gang shit. 9.4. What'd you give it?
I'm gonna give this one a 9.8. Yeah.
Okay. Now we've got another trivia question.
Yes, we
for
do.
You beautiful people.
Whoops,
before the commercial break.
Ah.
Dorian just messaged me. Did you hear about the aliens?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gruff said there were biologicals in the retrieved crashes. So he just basically admitted that these things had pilots or whatever. Go ahead, read the.
There are biologicals.
Here's the next trivia question, dear listener.
Okay, trivia question for the third one is going to be, who wrote my... Okay, remember, this is Amy Lee Forever's birthday, and she has the question. So she said, who wrote my absolute favorite classical music piece? Bach, also Sori's favorite, Beethoven, or Mozart, or, wait, Schubert?
Schubert. So it's Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, or Schubert. Who
you decide.
Wrote Amy Lee's absolute favorite classical
music
piece, dear listener?
Put your answers in the comment section. Just start going because she's going to be counting up the points. So there we go.
There are the names.
You can run the commercial with that on top, right?
The commercial break will return. We shall be right back after the commercial. Let's go. I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.